Well, it probably looks a little different than the last time you saw it. A little more like a box. I didn't get any video of putting wood in it because it was enough of a chore putting that wood in without having to worry about the camera. This has been a learning curve. I don't really like how that wood turned out, so I think when I go through and do this thing, finally, I'm probably gonna end up redoing the wood before this is all said and done, just because there's things that happened that I didn't like how it turned out. So, but that being said, I only have like 350, maybe 400 bucks wrapped up in that wood. So for the use I'm going to get out of it with the wood that's in it now, to me, it was worth it, especially for the learning experience, because I have never taken on anything like that with wood before. So as far as learning how to apply the linseed oil and the paint and the whole 9 yards, to me, it was worth it to learn how to do it. And I'm going to find some better wood this time. Need some with a tighter grain. Oak or something, a hardwood like that ain't going to cut the mustard because this thing flexes too much and you're going to try to splinter it. And it was not oak that came out of it. It was a soft, the wood that was in it, judging by what was left of the grain structure, was definitely a soft wood, but it was a lot tighter grain than this pine that I got in it. We're thinking it was either poplar or heart pine or possibly Doug fir. So I'm gonna get a different source of wood, and we'll do it all again, but this time I'll have a better idea of what I'm doing. When I do the floor next time, I really need to come through up here. It's because this box is built like a wedge, narrower at the front and wider at the back. Need to come back into here where it just gets inside this angle iron and rip it and make these outside boards wedge shape, because when you tighten everything down, the fronts end up on top of this angle iron, which is slightly above the angles that go across, so it makes things fit kind of funky. There's a couple holes that got screwed up. The big thing that I figured out is go through, get everything cut to size, oil it, and then drill your holes, because apparently that linseed oil made this stuff swell up a little bit and it didn't quite fit the same going in that it did when I marked everything off when the wood was dry-ish. And then this board, I don't know what the hell happened. These holes were way off. That second set of holes back was way off, and then on that fourth set of holes back, the inside one was way off. And I had to re-drill the holes. I don't know what I cannot explain what the hell happened. That was the only board that happened to, and they all lined up. When I cannot explain what happened, but something happened. But getting that wood in there, tighten that frame right up. I mean, it's still still gonna be flexy just because of the way it is, but it's not. That's where your structure is in that wood. But anyway, with all that being said, also, because everybody was wondering what was going on, or because I said I would tell you what was going on with the paint when I got the situation figured out, could not find anybody who knew anything about oil-based paint. Could not fucking do it. Finally, out of desperation, I went to Lowe's of all places and found a guy that knew exactly what I wanted and knew exactly what I was talking about. At Lowe's of all stupid places. Well, unfortunately, the paint mixing program they have would not allow him to mix up that color in an oil-based paint, because the machine kept kicking back in the program that it would not fit in the can. So apparently oil-based paint takes more pigment or something to make it a color. So I ended up getting Kills oil-based primer, exterior wood primer, put that on, and then it's got a alkylid base Valspar exterior paint on it that actually held up The only spot I barked it up at all putting it in was right here, and that's only because this side we had to get rough with, because you get behind the axle and the whole thing sags because it had memory in it from the gearbox hanging on it. So when we put all this in, this side got funky. Everything else went fairly decent, but this side was a chore. But it's all in now. Everything's square near as I can tell, and all the bolts are in it for the most part, except for where I still have stuff to bolt on. So anyway, enough talking about the box. Web chain is ready to go in. I'd like to get the web chain in tonight. I'd like to get... Damn it, hold on. I got a dog to take care of. Peter! I shouldn't even have called her. I should have ran down and got a remote and lit her ass up. What I should have done. It's the only way she's going to learn that lesson. So anyway, I want to get the web chain in. I want to get the bulkhead back in the front. And I'd like to get the gearbox hung tonight. We'll see what time allows. I got started late because I got home from work and had a splitting headache. I think from the heat, because we got to a hot spot at work, and that's about when it started to show up. So anyhow, see about dragging this guy in there, I guess. Now, the book says to get the chain started and then actually feed it from underneath. So, this could be interesting. Yep, I readdressed the book real quick. The book wants you to feed it from the bottom, and it comes in a roll, and they want you to set the roll in the bed and unroll it and feed it from the bottom, and it's not going to work like this way. So I took a pair of vice grip clamps, or I took a vice grip clamp and pinned the backstop paws back so that this back feeder shaft will freewheel, and hopefully I can just pull this thing in there by hand and not have to worry about feeding it from underneath. That'd be nice. So let's give that a shot, eh? Say that's a little easier than trying to go from underneath. At least up to that point. Okay, now maybe I can get underneath and get a hold of that first bar and pull it through, maybe. Okay, the web chain's in. That actually went really easy, all things considered. I was expecting that to be more of a fight than it was. It rolls over nice. You can pull it by hand. Yeah, I might need hurry. So that's good. I can't feel anything. There's no grabs or anything funny like that. So, but before this project's completely done too, it's going to require a new web chain, because safe to say that one's tarred. some of them links are damn near come apart by hand type of deal. But it'll work for now for what I want it to do. At least for the time being, until I put a new web chain in it. So I guess back it in the garage and we will probably get the bulkhead put in next. All right, so here's the bulkhead. It had two old bidder, well, my bidder number was here, and then there was one here from apparently when old man Myers bought it at an auction, Lord knows when. But I took some lacquer thinner to get them bidder numbers off, and I'll be damned if me rubbing on it didn't take whatever scuzz was covering up the model number and brought the orange back on the number 19. Because before you could see it, but you couldn't, you had to look. Now it's actually pretty clear. I thought that was kind of neat. I thought about trying it on that one, but then I thought it might take the white off and just leave the green, so I quit while I was ahead. But anyway, that obviously goes up there. See if it's a little bit easier going in than it was coming out, because coming out was a little bit of a fight. Okay, let's try this, eh? One more. It uses these two top bolts. Put the bolts in yesterday just to help hold the wood. Those are going to kind of be in the way of getting that bulkhead back in, eh? Yeah. What you think, Teeter? Huh? What you think, Teeter? She was very curious of this thing yesterday. She didn't really know what to make of the whole thing. Okay, try again. Get some bolts. Okay, so I got the bulkhead bolted in with the bolts that hold it in position. You got these three here, these two here, and then there's one in the top that are just normal hex head bolts. And then I got to transfer these three holes and the three holes on this side, which this side's going to be fun because there's a lot of stuff in the way. Hopefully I can get the drill in there. And then that'll be all bolted in, so do this side first since it's the easy one. The other thing that I've noticed that's interesting, well, I guess it's not interesting, yeah, it makes sense once you think about how everything works out, but the thing that I've noticed after I oiled it versus before I oiled it is when you're drilling on it or anything, the wood does not splinter nearly as bad after it's oiled as it did beforehand. Okay, so the bulkhead's all bolted in nice and solid. That really stiffened that box up significantly. It's never been that solid since I've owned it, because all the wood was garbage, so it was always all like a wet noodle. But anyway, now I think what I'm gonna have to do real quick is probably clip these bolts off flush with the nuts for the gearbox to fit. I'm gonna do that real quick. I want to chase these threads, because this is where that trash shield that goes on the inside, that little cone-shaped piece, that's what that bolts to. And then should be able to bolt the gearbox back on. Alright, I got the gearbox ready to go on. I tried like hell. I wanted to get the keys out so I could anti-seize them, but I tried like hell and neither one of them was moving, so I cleaned up the shafts around them as best as I could, and we'll just admit defeat on them for now. But you know, I probably ought to go grab some new lock washers, seeing as how those are all broke, huh? So anyway, we are ready to go back on, other than needing lock washers. Okay, try to weasel this thing in there. Piloted, which is the fun part. Oh. No harm, no foul, got lucky on that one. That scared me for a minute. Thought I was going to be buying a gearbox. What a chore. Get one bolt started. Oh, I'll be damned, I got one bolt started. Okay. There's that. Okay, so gearbox is all bolted on. Everything's hooked up except the coupler, which we're still working on. I did notice this feed dog. This is the dog that engages the gear to advance the chain. This one engages it to advance it, and then these two engage it to keep it from backing up. So that spring's broke and that one's missing, so I'm gonna have to get some springs for it. But they're just regular old tension springs, so shouldn't be too hard to come up with out like at a hardware store or something. So anyway, with that all being done, the last thing I want to get done yet tonight is get the oil out of the gearbox, and I want to dump some diesel fuel in it, and probably actually leave that diesel in there for a while until I get it. Technically, if I had that coupler, I could run it right now, but leave the diesel in there long enough to run it, and get it good and sloshed around and get all the nasties cleaned out of there. And then dump it and fill it with fresh 80/90. So they gave you this nice big oversized drain plug here. So we'll see how bad we look. I'm gonna guess there's gonna be a fair bit of water. Oh. Oh. No wonder that box sounded so growly. That's not even really oil anymore. That's probably circa 1957 gear oil and water. And there's a zerk there, so I'm guessing probably a little bit of grease mixed in with it. So, anyhow, let that sit there and drain for a little bit. And dump her full of diesel and let it soak and clean itself out. So, I guess that's it for tonight, and we'll tack more onto this here video tomorrow. Alright, so trying to remember where we left off here. I think it was with these springs. So we're gonna start with these springs. Luckily they were a standard size. I can't remember what they are, what exactly they are. I threw the bag away. They are a, tore the top off. But safe to say they're standard size spring. TSC had them on the rack, so I didn't even have to cut them or modify them or nothing. They just went right on like they're supposed to. So the feed dog for the web chain Advance is a lot more grabby now than it was, so that's good. And I don't know if anybody remembers, but when I took this thing apart, this is the shaft coupler that goes right here and ties basically all the beater drive. All the beater drive drives off of that main beater. But that goes there and hooks to that, and then obviously your shaft to shaft. And I don't know if anybody remembers, but I had to cut that thing off with a torch because it would not move. Like, would not, wasn't happening. And we were hoping to find off-the-shelf couplers. Well, it's a standard size coupling. The length and everything, you can find it easy, but the small key makes it stupid. You can't get it with that key. You have to have them custom made, which was going to get stupid expensive. And Dad does not have the right size. He's got a broach that'll cut that key, but it won't cut it in something this long. So we didn't have anything to cut the key, and getting it made was going to take forever, and it was going to be expensive. So Dad welded it back together, and I mean, if I slapped paint on it, you'd never know it was cut in half. So save the day on that one. But with that, we got like an hour here to put all the beaters back in, and in all reality, it'll be back together. So pitter patter, let's get at her. And it's going back together with lots and lots of NICs, so that hopefully when this happens again, it just slides apart like it was intended to, without all the carnage. Lots of NICs, lots of it, all of it. almost like it was meant to be that way. Okay, so the beater shaft is back in and everything's kosher. So with that being said, we can put the beater bars back on. Now there's 3 different styles. You have a full offset left, and then a 0 offset where they're equal on both sides, and then a full offset right where you got more sticking off there, and then 0, and then full offset left, and then 0. You'd have thought since there's 6 beaters they would have 2 of each, and I'm wondering if they were meant to, but the way it works out, you have a full offset left, 0, full offset right, 0, full offset left, 0, full offset left. So, but you want to make sure that you alternate them. You don't want them one the same right behind the other. So those can all go back on. I could have spent some time straightening them out, but like this one's been broke. They're all a little tweaked. So I'm saying they're not even worth my time to try to straighten out. What I'm going to do in the final form of all this is I'll knock all the rivets out, take all the teeth off, shit can the bars, and get new or cut new angle iron and make all new bars so that everything is straight and we ain't got this broken one in the mix and everything's good to go. So those are ready to go on. I got they have captured square nuts in here. I got new square nuts, and then this is just a regular nut and bolt, so should be good to go here.
Woodruff keys that they used in there, they only make that size key in a 3/16. It's a 2 1/8 round by 3/16 key. They only make that in that 3/16 key. They don't make it in a quarter.
I found the one I lost, so
That was how I determined what the keys were today. I was even looking to see if I could get 1/4 inch Woodruff keys the same size, if I could make step keys, put standard couplings on it. Couldn't even do that because that key is only made in 3/16.
you wonder what made them go with a bastard size.
The bastard is the width of the key to the size of the shaft.
Alright, so the main beater's all back together and tight. After I got that first bar in, I realized I had it in wrong, because I had it originally with the angle facing this way. Well, they want it. I got it in there, I'm looking at it, and it's like, that doesn't seem right. And I got to looking at the torch marks on it, and like, oh, that needs to be reversed, because they want the angle back over the boss like that, and I had it facing the other way. So that's right now. And with that, we're good to put the paddles back on the rear distributor. So we will get to that. Maybe put you there. Maybe. And according to the book, I want to get this right. They want the round part of the paddle facing rearward and the point facing forward. So apparently, so it like gives a slicing action. So they want it like this. Because they got round point. They want the point facing toward the front of the spreader. And it's gotta go like that. Damn it. You always gotta run way away from you when you got shit that you can't let go of. Alrighty, fast forward a little bit. I got a little carried away and I got the rest of the damn thing put together. It's got brand new chains, all the sprockets are on, everything's tight. Got the coupler on the drive, so alright. We're ready to kick the tires and light the fire. PTO's a little stuck, probably from sitting outside in the rain. Sure. Okay, just had to yank on it a little harder. That old grease on that spinner tube's a little stiff. Take it out far enough away that if something goes flying off, it ain't gonna hit nothing. But we should be good. That's tight. All those are tight. All those are tight. Everything's hooked up here. Well, here goes nothing. Hell yeah. I ain't gonna wind it up too far since that gearbox is still full of diesel, but obviously I want to be able to, you know, slap it around in there and get all the shit kind of stirred up. Chain no drive. Interesting. Well, everything works fine except for the web advance, and the only thing I can see that could be wrong, because if I put my foot on the arm and put some pressure on it, it'll ratchet just like it's supposed to, which has me wondering It's got this return spring. They're supposed to pull it back down after the cam hits it. It's got me wondering if that spring is somehow either broke or come discombobulated. So pop that top cover off real quick and see what's up with that spring. And if it broke, I can get a new one in the morning. I'd kind of like it. It'd be a good idea to pop the top of that cover off anyway. That way, if there's any shit in there, I can flush it. So we'll back it back in real quick, see what we can come up with. Shouldn't take that long. Okay, I got the top off the gear case, and I'm glad I did, because it's kind of scuzzy in there. It ain't pretty. Definitely had water in it at some point, but I think I'm going to go ahead and we'll just run it right here nice and slow and see what's going on, because I don't see anything that jumps out at me as, oh hey, this is not right. Something to do with that real quick. Okay, so it should just follow that cam. Huh. I wonder if that return spring is just getting too weak to pull it back. Well, I got the spring out. And I don't know how much ass it's supposed to have, but it ain't got, I mean, it retracts like it's supposed to, but it just ain't got a whole lot left in it. Which, depending on how this thing got parked for all them years, if it was parked on high cam and that spring spent the last God knows how many years fully extended, that probably took a lot of its snap out of it. And there's a very good possibility that's what happened. So, that being said, it shouldn't be too hard. I can go back to TSC in the morning. I got to run over there anyway because I want to buy some shotgun ammo. TSC doesn't have, but Royal King does, but Royal King didn't have springs, so I don't know. Anyway, I'll go see what I can come up with for another spring, probably something a little heavier, because it was probably working when I brought it home because A, there was only one return spring on the, or tension spring on this advanced paw, and 2, it had almost no tension on it because it had been broke and they had a bunch of shit cobbled together to make it work. So there was basically no tension on this entire mechanism, so it was probably just falling by gravity. Well, now there's enough pressure on it, it can't fall by gravity, and that spring doesn't have enough ass to help it return. So, you see where we're going with this. So, I guess tomorrow morning, I will go get another spring, and we will wrap this video up at that point. So close, yet so far. Okay, so I think I got this sorted out. This was the, obviously this was the spring that came out of it. And naturally, that's a pretty custom style spring. I mean, I've seen them around before. They're not impossible to find, but it's not something you're going to find on your everyday hardware store shelf. So I got a regular, just straight spring that has a little heavier wire in it. To try to get that thing to follow that cam lobe better. And I roll it over once by hand and everything seemed to be all right. So we'll roll it over with the tractor and see how things go. Methinks that's a little more how it's supposed to work, eh? Yeah, my guess is I bet that thing got parked when they finally got done using it and they shut it off. I bet it got parked on high cam, and I bet that spring spent that whole time extended. I mean, it still got some ass to it, but it ain't nearly enough. Now, with all that being said, if I remember right in the book, it states that when you have the lever all the way up, there should be 0 advance on the web chain when you have it adjusted right, and then the next one down gives you 1 tooth per click, and then the next one down at 2 teeth, and then the next one down, and on and on and on. I think until you get, I think maximum is 3 teeth per advance. Maybe more, because that one I think it says should be 0 advance, and then 1 tooth, 2, 3, 4, or something to that effect. So I'm gonna go grab the book real quick and see what they what exactly they want for adjustment on all this, and go from there. All right, well, as long as I did everything right. Now, I go down 1. Slow advance, a little faster, a little faster, a little faster, and full advance. And then leader D-clutch. real aggressive when it actually works right. That's a shed. Well, she is finally ready to rock and roll. Ended up, after I ran it, neither Dad or I kind of liked how noisy this whole combobulation was back here. So did some more investigating, and come to find out the springs that I had put on it for the feed dog were too heavy. I matched a spring that was on there. Well, the spring that was on there was not right. So put the original spring back inside the gearbox. Found, or this is why you buy the book, looked in the book, and all four, the spring for this dog, this dog, and then the two springs in the feed dog were all supposed to be the same. This spring was wrong. This spring was original. Unfortunately, the hardware store did not have anything that matched the original, but what I did was bought, they were basically the same. It's basically the same wire gauge and OD as a light duty screen door spring. So I bought a long spring and made 4 springs out of it, and after that it worked just like it was supposed to with the original spring inside the gearbox. So, and it's a lot quieter. It doesn't hammer. Well, it doesn't hammer at all, and the whole thing it's better deal that way. So we're good to go there. As you can see, the gearbox, the rock shaft for the chain advance leaks. The gearbox is going to be a project all in itself. Probably gonna have to gut it. If there's bearings in there, probably go ahead and change the bearings and yada yada yada. But for now, it's got fresh oil in it, and I made a gasket for it because the gasket that was on there, somebody had that cover off before and it only had half the gasket in it. So it's got a new gasket there. So should be good to go. Sorry I didn't get a whole lot of video of the final things going on here. I was trying to cut out all the monotonous shit. Like it's got new drive chains for the beaters, it's got a new main drive chain, just little piddly shit like that that's normal every day. I was trying to cut it out because this video is getting long enough already. So had to remake this stud for the grease zerk. It goes down through to this midship bearing. That was interesting. I thought it was just a piece of pipe, but it's actually a 1/2-inch stud that's threaded on both. It was interesting, but we remade that, so now that you can actually put grease to that midship bearing because it was broke clean off and there was just water running right down in there. Actually, it's not really a bearing, it's a bushing, but so yeah. But the only other weak link we could possibly have, but I think it'll be all right. Actually, I'm hoping it's just rusted shut and it won't be an issue, but the slip clutch. I never touched the slip clutch. So the slip clutch is going to be its own project. The gearbox is going to be its own project. The beaters are going to be their own project. That's why everybody's been telling, well, not everybody, but you get the people that worry about paint. I had a bunch of people say, just paint the whole thing. No, you don't paint the whole damn thing until you're done with it. I have two different, I call three different types of restorations. You got a Rust-Oleum restoration where you don't fix a damn thing, you just slap paint on it and call it good. You have a working restoration, which is what I'm doing what I call a working restoration is what I'm doing here, is you fix what needs fixing as you go, because you want to be able to use it while you're working on it. That's what I'm doing here. And then you have a full restoration, which would have been, I tore the thing down to the bare frame, went through it front to back, made it all brand new, and then reassembled the whole thing with new paint and the whole 9 yards. I wanted to use it before then, because if I do that, I could have turned this thing into a 4 or 5 month project probably by the time it's all said and done. So you could have slapped paint on it, but then every time you go to work on something else, you're going to be fucking the paint up and you're going to be repainting everything. So why bother painting it until you're completely done with it? So, because like I say, the gearbox is going to need work, that slip clutch is going to need work, it needs a bunch of sheet metal work, it needs these pieces made. I need to find the right beater sections for this, because these are supposed to be staggered to each other like these. I would like to find one of these greasable pull. This is a newer style of tensioner pulley, and I'd like to find one of these for here. I think it'll fit. Like the frame needs a little bit of work. It needs some, not patching, but it needs a little bit of reinforcing where it's got some thin spots from manure sitting on it and whatnot. It's like, it's not big things, it's just a bunch of little things that add up to a lot of work. Here we go. Why I didn't paint the whole thing, because it's gonna get cut on, it's gonna get welded on, shit's gonna get scratched up and dinged up, and it's just, you're wasting money slapping paint on it at this point. So anyway, I did not expect to be working on this thing this long today. I was hoping to be done by noon and be spreading manure this afternoon, but every time I went to work on something else, it turned into another project, like replacing that main drive chain. That turned into an hour and a half of work, because I had to get, the guard was all messed up, and I had to cut it all apart because all the bolts were rusted solid, and it's a project. But we're 10 times further ahead than where we were when I drug it home. It's hard to believe it's the same spreader. And in all honesty, the like patina look of the rest of the frame against the new wood, obviously I want to paint it all at some point, but it's kind of, looks kind of growing on me. I think it because I know what it looked like when I drug it home, I think it looks pretty sharp right now. But anyway, this video's already gotten way too long for what it is. This has just been another 7 damn minutes of me talking this last little piece here. So tomorrow, with any luck at all, we're gonna put the old girl to work for the first time in Lord knows how long. So I guess that's it for this one. We'll catch you guys on the next one.